I just love smart people.
Mm.
This is what I've said it a couple times, and I think it's so, so valuable. I don't have all the answers. And other people do. And my job as the director is to listen and then decide where we're going to go with it, right? But um the team is incredible, and um to always have a team like that would be a dream, right? To have designers who are at the top of their game, truly at the top of their game, um who care about story.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the interview series, Writer Real Talk, where we talk with originating artists and people who love to help develop new musical theater here on the channel. And today, I've got my friend and colleague, Chris J. Handley, on with us today. Chris and I, well, we're goofballs, but we met first in a more professional way, I think, back in 2014 when that was my first summer at Bristol Valley Theater, and we were both in Les Mis. And I have to say, knowing Chris in the capacity of an actor first, clued me into the genius of this man. And he will balk at that, but he
I
is
won't.
oh, good, I love that. He's a smart cookie as a director, as an artistic director, as a performer, as a singer in general, and I love this man so much. So I'm very happy to bring on to the podcast today, podcast, interview, whatever it is, Christopher J. Handley. Hey, buddy, welcome.
Thank you. It's a delight to be here.
I hope so.
It
On
is.
this
It is.
cold fall day in October.
I know. Here we are. It has finally arrived, and my life is better with the autumnal season. I was saying I put on my fall hoodie, and here we are. We're ready to go.
First sweater day. I'm stoked about it. It's great. Chris, you wear a lot of hats, so I'm gonna ask of you if you were to tell someone how you identify, like, as an artist, what would you say?
Oh God. Well, this is how I think a lot of this is going to go. There's going to be a lot of going on. I mean, my day job is the executive artistic director world, right? That's what I do in my day.
Of where?
My my training up until this point was all as an actor. And so and then in between those things, directing became a thing, and also teaching became a thing,
Yeah.
which is also a part of my sort of day life. So all of those things, that's how I identify as many things. Whatever needs to be done right now, whatever fire needs to be put out, that's the hat that I put on.
Fair enough. The life of multi-hyphenate kind of seems that way.
Well, aren't we all? I mean, I think we have to be. Uh,
Mm.
you are, and I think that more than I was just talking to a playwright about this the other day, about like auditioning, the audition process, right? Is no longer just the audition process of me going into the room with my headshot and resume stapled and going in to sing a song for somebody. It's now being a videographer and an editor and knowing all of those things and having to have all of those skills. So I think that we have become that by necessity right now.
That is so very true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, yeah. And then even thinking about from the other side of the table, receiving all those auditions in the way that we have to reorganize everything to try to make art happen in a way where it's no longer those interpersonal relationships, just one-on-one in person in the room, arrive for your appointment or go to the open call sort of thing. It's very different.
Yeah, and I hate it.
Say more about
Being
that.
on, I think on both sides, I have not had to do the audition process in this way. I've been lucky in that, but I've sat on the other side and receive tapes come in, and it's hard. It's hard. You don't. It's a totally different medium, and seeing people in 2D or seeing exactly what they want you to see, right? That they have crafted this perfect tape. Doesn't let you see the who they are, the reality of this person, and feel their their mojo right in the room, and know that this is somebody that I actually want to spend time with or not, which to me is a big part of the audition process.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you, well, let's run with this tangent for a second because it's a good tangent. So do you, when you receive auditions, video auditions, do you use that as like a screening process to then do a live online callback? How does that work for you guys? Also, you haven't said where you're the artistic director of?
The Alleyway Theater in Buffalo, New York.
There it is. Yeah.
Alleyway is in our 43rd season of producing and developing new plays and original musicals, and we've been doing it for a long time, and we will continue to do it. The city renewed our lease through 2048, so we're at least doing it till 2048. What's the question? The screening process?
Yeah.
So for the play that is our first play of the season, the Magnolia Ballet, we did see some tapes from people out of town. And because they were, we actually just looked at the tapes. We didn't then do a live virtual live thing. But now the show that's happening in the winter is called the Olive Complex, and we are doing a combination of in-person, real old-fashioned auditions, but some people who can't make it are sending in tapes, and we're using them as the screening of, do we want to see that person come into the room? We just had a tape come in the other day, and I mean, we're not doing this like a casting office and seeing thousands and thousands of tapes. But we did just have, a couple tapes come in, and I said to the director, I just hate this. I don't know. Yes, the person, yes, they've checked the boxes, but do they have it? Whatever that mysterious thing is. So to me, it's a screening of, do I want to take it to the next step?
Yeah.
And also, I guess we have been doing a lot of tape, because our second show, which is called Burst, the director was he was in Italy this summer, right? So he was looking at tapes, but his casting of it came even before the read. Like, he got the tape of this one of the actors, and based on her just like, hi, how are you conversation before she even got to the sides, he decided that she was it. Right. So it's like we say in the old-fashioned world, that the audition begins as soon as you walk in the room. It does on your tape too, and use that opportunity, I think, to show us who you are.
Oh, that's very interesting.
We're in this world. Sorry, I'm just keep talking about things, but we're in this world. We keep we want everything to be perfect. We are not perfect. We will never be perfect. Don't expect ever perfection, right? Try strive for the perfection, but love the mistakes. That's the
absolutely.
When we see something on stage, we love the mistakes. We love to see the ball get dropped and then somebody have to pick it up, right? And I think that's what makes us humans, and that's what makes us want to spend time in the rehearsal room together.
Yeah, I mean, perfectionism is something that doesn't exist, and we all should just acknowledge that. And I think that's great. But also, so this is interesting as a conversation. So having just done, I was the musical director for once at Bristol Valley Theater this past summer. So having gone through the casting process completely online of that show, that was very interesting, because not only did we get submissions of like people singing a song, but also there are so many instruments that we had to be looking at and checking for. So like that submission process was interesting. We got a lot that came in, and I think I found a little bit easier of a time than our director did, Karen, in weeding through the first round. I knew what was going to work and what wasn't going to work enough to then be like, hey, I want to see this person live on Zoom in a callback. But then you're totally right. Even then, you don't get a full vibe of people. You can get like a semi vibe, like a muted vibe, if you will. Because then, like, we'd cast the show and did the thing. Then meeting these people this summer in person, I was like, oh my God, my heart. Had I seen you in the room to begin with, I'd have wanted to work with you immediately.
Yeah, we have no idea. We build a persona of who we think people are based on the Zoom box, and it's wild to then meet somebody in person physically that you have been talking to before through the callback. Or I mean, we did with some board members. We had board members come in this year that we have been talking for a year and a half now on Zoom, and saw each other in person last month, and it was shocking to see people as human beings. So I hope it all ends soon.
Well, I do
Swear on
think
this?
that.
Can I say bad words on this?
Oh, yes, we will get the fun explicit rating. It'll be great.
Oh, do you want that? Because
It makes me feel cool, Chris.
I just want it to fucking end.
Fair enough. See, now I feel cool. Thank you for that. You did that for me.
You're welcome.
Though I don't think we'll ever get away from hybrid. I think it's gonna be a thing forever. Hopefully we find the best things about the online process only to keep. But what that weeding out process is gonna look like and how long it takes, it makes me a little nervous.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's good. It's good for meetings. It's good for like administrative work, I think. But I hate it as a medium. Theater is, to me, theater has to be in the room. I don't want to. I want to watch TV. I want to watch a film, and I want to watch theater. I'm so old, but I just don't want to watch theater on Zoom anymore.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone liked Zoom theater in particular. I think pro shots are a little bit different.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you're the National and you're doing brilliant work and showing it on, on the big screen or now the small screen, National Theater at Home, though, that's gorgeous, right? But it's not
Right.
theater made for Zoom. It's theater captured. But the theater that's made for Zoom is not for me. It's for some people. It's not for me.
Yeah. There was the big question throughout the pandemic of what is theater, and the question we've been asking for millennia at this point. I don't know that we have more of an answer now. I think we've muddied the waters.
Sure. Well, and then from marketing and financial point of view of running a theater company in the pandemic, you have to I don't want to say lie about what theater is, right? But you have to figure out how to keep yourself current or keep yourself in people's minds. That was a crazy, that first year was everybody just trying to be relevant in some way and trying to stay afloat.
Yeah.
And prove and saying we can still tell stories on screen. And I am proud of the work that we did. We did a lot of digital stuff, but then we also were the first company in town to go back to in person, because I just, had to get people. I guess I like people.
I'm sorry, what? Chris?
For those of you who don't know, I don't usually say that.
It's true, he doesn't. I knew there was a soft core in there somewhere, Chris Handley.
Yeah. I guess I like the human connection, believe it or not.
And I do believe it of you. So before we dive into our topic today, which is about directing a new musical for its world premiere. We'll get there in a little bit, but since this is for mostly musical theater writers and our collaborators, I've got some musical theater based questions for you today. Don't you worry, it's not a quiz.
Okay.
I saw your face. There's no quizzing here.
Okay.
none whatsoever. Just some things about you. For the audience to get to know you a little bit, because I know
Okay.
you, but they want to know you. I hope.
Great.
They keep watching the video, so I hope so.
Right.
So I'm curious to know if there is any musical, and you can answer this as an artistic director, performer, however you choose to. Is there a musical theater writer who their work you gravitate toward the most or the quickest?
Come on.
Hey, not everyone says the same thing.
I do, and I feel like, I mean, I do. I just, well, I guess there's a couple, right? But like, yeah, I mean, I just think
It's
that
Michael Ratty. Yes, thank you,
I
sir.
think that Michael Ratty's a genius, and that there's nobody else to listen to.
That's a perfect full quote. Thank you so much.
You know, I have always just loved Sondheim, and I think that the investigative work that he does about humanity is really exciting and interesting, and done in a way. I was thinking about him and his work in terms of like being new plays, right? Because so Alleyway does new plays, and so I just, new plays are always on my mind. But he and how we are trying to get our audience to jump with us without a net, right? And so then I saw he did the Jim Lipton interview inside the Actors Studio, right? And his favorite word and least favorite word. So Steve's least favorite word is celery, but his favorite but his favorite word is pioneer.
Ooh.
And so to think of him as a pioneer, and to think of him pioneering new work, which we don't think of his work as new, we think of it as old hat and the canon of musical theater, right? That this is, but when it came out, it was new.
Mm-hmm.
And it was incredibly inventive and incredibly surprising and incredibly um, investigative about life. And so, yeah, I do like his stuff. I'm also sort of on a Michael John LaChiusa kick, and I think that the melodies that he writes are great. I love them. I love his musicality. Yeah.
Stunning material.
Yeah. Really challenging material.
Yes.
Really challenging, but then that, like Steve, right? But then out of that, in the mix of the crazy, for lack of a better word, you know, then you have that beautiful soaring sound, or that beautiful soaring idea that comes out, that just sort of like makes your whatever this is, where your eyes like water. You know, I don't understand that, what that is, but it happens.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I really also like your point about Sondheim as a new writer. I think I was a little bit unique in my introduction to Sondheim in college, because a lot of my professors still had the old mindset of Sondheim is someone whose work is just, it's offbeat, it's weird, it's new, it's not doing what everyone else is doing, it's too hard to play, like all those sort of older ideas of when that were very pervasive when his first shows were coming out. And I think we have forgotten that collectively now, because we're like, oh right, Sondheim, that's so well established, we all know this music, we know these shows.
But then my question with that is like, so were they saying it's weird and different in a bad way, or weird and different in a good way?
I'd say 2/3 of them in a bad way.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem. Again, coming at it from a new play angle, that's the problem that we get. And to me, it's about audience, right? The audiences don't want to take the risk. They want to feel safe. They want to go see the Gershwin show in town. They want to go see the Rodgers and Hammerstein show because they trust it and they know what it's going to be.
Mhm.
And I think that's true of like not just like the blue hairs, right? It's not just true of the aging audience. I think that it's true of our generation and younger than us, right? That people are scared of new things, and thank God we have some of these writers who are willing to take the risk, and producers who are willing to take the risk and put that work up. That's it, right? Like writers, you need somebody to jump with you.
Yes, please.
Right, yeah.
Which is why someone like you is so important. Obviously, as a director with me, and again we'll get there, but also like I mean you are the executive artistic director of a theater that focuses on doing new work. Like you are like the godsend. You are the rare unicorn because you are willing to do that, and I'm glad that you have audience who's willing to go along. Though I'm sure that that's probably a constant struggle for you, going through the process of creating these seasons and bringing people in.
I think yes, 100%. But it's also I feel safe in a way, because in terms of the content of what we are putting together as a season. So because there's a risk inherent in doing new plays, meaning audience, right, and box office sales, because that risk exists, I don't have to worry about the risk of a show's content.
Ooh.
Because the risk is going to be there, no matter the play, no matter what show we're putting in our season. And that's exciting to me, I think, because then I can take a chance on something that if you only have a slot in your season for one new play, you're going to try to still do something milquetoast, right? That makes people feel safe in a way. But I'm okay. Let's do this. Let's take a jump. Let's do. God, I keep talking about jumping. But do it, right? And take the chance on a story that matters,
Yeah.
that I'm interested in, that might take the audience to a place that is that they don't necessarily know or understand, or that's not in their worldview. But the risk is always there because it's a new play. They haven't heard of it. They're so that's exciting to me in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this might be a slight leap here because obviously it's a very different form of producing, but I think the basic idea holds. It what you're doing reminds me a lot of like a Hal Prince who was always doing new work, always doing things that had a risk attached, and obviously on a big scale, and most of it seemed to pay off quite well for him. But now we are in the age where commercial producers and even some of the nonprofit production companies, are trying to balance that of what can we bring that is safe in order to get X, Y, or Z monetarily, and then where can we take those risks? And it does almost kind of model that smaller theater creating a season feel, where it's like, where can I take my risks instead of that idea of, well, everything's a risk. So cool, let's make some art.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, the Hal Prince commercial model is very different than what we do as a nonprofit, right? That's a $750,000 budget, right? I mean, we're a very small scale, but oh, what was I just going to say about that, Michael?
I don't know.
So I said all of that, right? But we still do A Christmas Carol, right?
Well,
Because then, for that reason, because then we have Christmas Carol, and we have shows that are built into the season that are the thing that keeps us going, that we're able to knowing that we're going to take a hit at the box office on a new play.
Mhm.
Christmas Carol supports the rest of the season.
Hey, when
So-
art meets commerce, crazy things happen.
Yep. And that's truly what it is. And it's interesting for me to be on this side of the table now for 3 years and know that that it's a business, and that it's truly about business, and that it's frustrating in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
That it can't just be about the art, and I can't just do your play because I love it. I have to figure out, does it fit in the season? Does the show after it have a larger cast, or are we flying in people from out of town that I have to put them up? And so that budget, that money has to go there, and I have to not do your play because it's just all for hundreds of reasons that have zero to do with you. You know,
And that's, I think, so important for writers to keep in mind. I mean, boy, does it often feel like shouting into the void with your work and hearing nothing back. And, you know, just like we say to actors all the time, 95% of the time, it has nothing to do with you or your work.
because at a certain level, we expect that everybody is going to be excellent at what they do, right? So I'm expecting that if your show is recommended to me and it's submitted to me, or however I get it, right, at a certain level, I'm assuming that this is going to be good.
Yeah.
Then so now I have a stack of 5 shows, right, that are good. Well, I have 4 shows in a season, and one of them is already our new play award winner that we will do, and one of them is going to be from this thing, and one of them is going to be from that. That leaves 1 slot left. It's so interesting. The puzzle is so interesting.
Yeah.
And fun. It's really fun and exciting, but I'm being on the other side. I don't envy you.
Thanks.
Because
I
that's got
also don't envy you.
Yeah. Well, good.
Like,
well, we
that
will
is
not.
hard.
We will not Freaky Friday, and we will stay. We are.
But like having to make those decisions
Yeah.
would give me such anxiety. Like
And heartburn and sleeplessness and what else do you want?
So great. But I mean, I think that will also be a part of the conversation moving forward today, that whole art versus commerce thing and how they interact. So well, we won't not dwell too much more on it at this moment, but I think it's probably going to come back up as we move forward. But I'd like to move to my next question, which again can be part of any of your work. I'm curious to know from you, is there something you can pinpoint as your biggest challenge so far in your artistic career? But then the flip side of that, perhaps your greatest success. Chris does not know these questions ahead of time, and I let him know that I would take care of him with these questions, but his face makes me think I'm misdirected.
Oh, you stumped me. This is like a job interview now.
Oh no.
Or it's like the question of what's your favorite musical?
Oh yeah, it's a mean question.
Which is a horrible question. What, I mean, challenge or success?
It doesn't have to be the biggest. It can just be a challenge that comes to your brain.
Can I talk? Well, here's the thing that's in my head. It's a challenge that I have, so stage fright.
Same one.
Stage fright.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just challenge. Like bad, like stage fright. I for a long time had terrible stage fright,
Really?
crippling, really bad, like, oh God, I can't go on with the show and I'm going to fuck it up and I'm gonna not, it's gonna be bad. And I think that I succeeded in sort of figuring out what that was about, um, which was going to grad school and learning um, that I had not really known how to be an actor until that point. Um, I was very good at faking it, faking connection on stage, faking uh, uh, second circle connection. Second circle. Do you know Second Circle? Patsy Rodenberg.
I do, but can you expand for our audience?
Yeah. So Patsy Rodenberg. Okay. So there's Cicely Berry, right? Voice teacher. And then there's Kristen Linklater and Patsy. So that's your triangle of stage voice teachers. So Patsy's book on the Second Circle is about connecting on stage, um, or in life. I don't do it in life, but I now am able to understand how to do it on stage, right? So first circle is this is very dumbed down, right? But it's being introverted, it's being taking in information and not giving it out. Um, uh, Only listening and never sharing, never being willing to share your own self. Third circle is the opposite. It's being an asshole, basically, right? That it's chest out and I'm here at the party and I want to talk to you, Michael. I'm talking to you and I'm so, Michael, what is going on with you, right? Michael, I'm so interested in what you're doing. And I'm looking at somebody else at the party and always wanting to be somewhere else and only giving off and never sharing, never listening. Second circle is a two-way street where I'm communicating with somebody. So I really started to understand that in grad school and started to understand that my fear was about me uh, not knowing what to do, or trying to figure out what I needed to do on stage. Instead, what I finally learned is that it has nothing to do with me, and I need to only worry about what I'm there for, which is to talk to somebody else, which is to get something from somebody else, which is to play an action and try to change the other person that I'm talking to. So once I sort of understood that, I think I became a better actor, and also stage fright went away, right? Because stage fright is when you have the void of nothing to do, and not knowing what to do. And so going on stage, like, it was worse. I mean, early summer stock, I was playing Coach Bolton in High School Musical
I guess.
with like three lines, right? And it was the worst there because I would sit in the dressing room and just have to wait to go on. And so my brain had time to stress out and freak out. So if you fill your head with an objective, with something to do, then the void is gone, and then the little fucker on your shoulder doesn't show up so much.
Wow.
But I'm doing a show in the spring, and I have not done anything since December of 2019 as an actor. And so it's coming back. Like, I'm like, oh God, am I gonna be able to do this play? I don't know. I hope so. So thank you for letting me talk through that. And yes, I will be able to do the play. But that's a challenge and a success of overcoming it, maybe.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Because also, as you said, that's the idea of Second Circle is more than just for stage, it is also for life. Absolutely. And there's a lot that, I mean, even as a writer, sitting alone in a place, writing things out, is useful to create characters and interactions that feel real. Like, there's a lot that's very applicable here in a lot of wonderful ways. So thank you for talking through that.
Sure.
So does that mean then, Christopher, that when I met you, you were in a moment of stage fright?
Oh, sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Can I reflect something to you from my experience?
Yeah.
Um, one of the reasons that I was so taken with you when I met you was because that was not my experience with you on stage. So this was Les Mis. I was playing Marius, and Chris was playing Thénardier, and so we don't interact a ton in that show at all. But I got to watch Chris act, and you just seemed so generous and present the whole time in a way that was electric.
I think it was the wig. No, thank you. Thank you.
But like that was a learning moment for me. You were someone I looked at and said, I need to step up my game. I need to be more grounded. I need to be here. So that's very interesting for me to hear.
Well, we're all on a different point in the spectrum, right? In the line of where we are on our life journey.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that we can all at any stage have any of those feelings and still be striving for perfection. Right. Wishing that we were perfect. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That was wonderful. That was a wonderful answer.
Sure.
It was good. Ooh. I love these chats. These are my favorite. They're so fun. Okay. Is there something I'm going to specify this a bit more to either something you've produced or directed that gives you an immense sense of pride for having been a part of its creation process?
The King's Legacy.
Oh, get out of here. You can't throw my show in for funsies.
I shall. I loved doing The King's Legacy. Although I did this high school production, I directed a high school production of Sarah Ruhl's Eurydice.
Ooh.
And it just, man, I was so excited about that production. I thought it was good. Like, not even qualifying it for high school. Like, they did good work in it. And we challenged, they were challenged, and we challenged each other, and the design was exciting. And man, I want to do that play again. I love that play. Yeah.
Wow. Doing a Eurydice. So you said high school?
Yeah.
Wow.
At an all boys Catholic high school, and then the girls come from other schools around. But yeah.
That's fascinating. Why that choice of play?
Because I was I'm a rule breaker, and they had up until so.
Is there a rule breaker?
The year before that, we did the David Ives adaptation of Is He Dead?
Oh, okay.
Mark Twain story. And is that right? Yeah, I think it's the Mark Twain story. So those were my 2 years that I was there. Before that, they're just doing, the standard high school plays. And I just felt like, I don't know, let's do something that they can sink their teeth into.
I love that.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was a very fun, and fog. I love smoke, and so we set off the fire alarms and
like you do. I mean, who hasn't?
Yeah. Our theater now has fire alarms that are heat sensors and not smoke sensors. So
smart.
Fog everywhere.
Smoke away.
Smoke away.
Yeah.
But that's, I would say, a production. But I truly was excited about the especially, I think, the like working on King's Legacy, and for like for a long time, right? And trying to get it to a place that we felt was ready for a show. That was exciting.
All right, you brought it up. Let's do it. Let's dive in. Here we are. Here's the thing. So The King's Legacy, my Anne Boleyn show, for those of you who are new to me and to Chris today. I wrote a show about Anne Boleyn and her daughter, Queen Elizabeth I. It also touches upon the other wives. It is about uplifting the women's stories, And for the record, it was before 6 was a thing. And
Yeah.
uh
Fuck yeah.
fuck yeah. And also it does different work than 6 does, like very different shows. But this show had its world premiere in 2019 at the Bristol Theater in upstate New York. That's Western New York, Naples, Finger Lakes, woohoo! And so that's been my artistic home since 2014. And so I was thrilled to have the show have its world premiere there. And Chris was the director for the show. Now, I had known Chris as a performer. I'd shared the stage with you twice by that point.
I never remember these things. So Les Mis
Yeah.
and
then Drowsy. I don't know if I shared a stage with you in between. I don't think so.
The Foreigner.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about 2016 completely. Oh, right, because then Peter and the Starcatcher was also 2016.
Yeah, we've done a bunch.
So we had been on stage together a whole bunch by that point. And why are you chuckling?
Just remembering moments.
We've had some good times. And the year before King's Legacy ended up world premiering, Chris directed me for the first time in, what's the name of the play? The
Spider's Web.
Spider's Web, thank you. And I had a very small role in that one, but I was delighted to be in the room with Chris as a director. So when it became true that Chris was going to be directing the world premiere, I was so happy to be able to chat with him through the process of getting the show ready. And boy, was that a process. I'd love to know from you, just like as a starter moment here, what was it like being given a musical script that is as I was gonna say hefty is not right, as in-depth as the King's Legacy, knowing that that was going to be like a thing we're doing at a small summer stock theater?
Do you mean in terms of the content of the show, the story, or the scope of the play, or the scope of the production?
I think I'm talking scope, but scope of, I think, both the play and the production.
I mean, for me, the scary part is that I am not a scholar of this story.
What?
Right?
You don't know everything about Tudor women?
And so I am this was a huge challenge, right? That man, I tried and I dug into it, and it's but I'm not that, and I never pretended to be the person who knew the dramaturgical historical things that were necessary in the story to that. So for me, that was the huge challenge to overcome, and I think that that's certainly was the first gut reaction of, oh God, I don't know this story. Can I make sure that I'm doing it justice? And I think, we had some conversations about it, and knowing that that you certainly know this, of the events of the play in, within your fingers and toes, and that we had a dramaturgical team on it, that I was then supported in that way, and I was able to really really worry about the what was there on stage and the people in front of me, and the like the stuff on stage.
Yeah. The storytelling with what was going to actually physically be there.
Yeah, and looking at it from that audience point of view, right? Because we always want to be thinking about the person who shows up to the play that has never seen it before and knows nothing about it, and we have to carry them along. They have to be told that story. And so I was able to, and I think probably to your making you crazy, I think at points, was able to say, like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm the audience member who doesn't know what's going on, and we have to make sure that I do,
Yes.
because otherwise that person's going to be lost.
Yeah.
So I think that we get, even in new plays or in, and when I say new plays, I mean musicals also. It's just, it's everything. But in terms of new work or published work, that we forget that people don't necessarily know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so keeping that eye open to carrying that one audience member along is really important in all ways, from the direction of it to the writing of it to the performing of it.
Yeah. And that was, I think, what was the biggest, like, useful thing that gave me a kick in the ass right from the start was I thought I had said some things enough times, and you were like, nope, I
Right.
did not clock that at all. I was like, but I said it 3 times and pointed out, and you're like, yep, well, here we are 2/3 of the way in, and you're referencing something that I do not remember at all. I'm like, okay, great. So how do we build that in? And I think that was a large part of what we talked about in terms of structure and moving things forward, playing with things a bit, trying to get the script in a way that it would flow, make storytelling sense, as art, but then also give the audience what it needs. And that was, I think, between our conversations moving forward, probably the biggest thing we were always talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I feel like was my usefulness in our conversations, that I'm there as the sounding board to say, I don't get it. I don't know what's happening. This is unclear. Where is it unclear to me? My job is not to write the play. I'm not there to or rewrite it or change or come up with the ideas of how to shift it necessarily, right? I'm just there to poke holes and say, here's the thing that I don't know. Here's what's not happening. And I don't necessarily have, know the answers to it. But as that, through the lens of that audience member, here's the thing that's not clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is one of the reasons I wish every writer had a collaborative director, collaborative dramaturg who was there with them when the piece is ready for readings and things to do that work. Because I think that is one of the most useful things you can possibly give to a writer is, hey, here's where things are great, but here's where I'm not tracking. I'm not going to give you the answers to that because I don't have the answers, but do you have thoughts? Do you have answers as the writer? Is there something you can bring to it?
And sometimes you'll have a dramaturg who does have those answers, right? Who is somebody really trained in that. I am not that person. I'm not that dramaturg to do that. And so that's why having a support team, theater is nothing if not a collaboration, and doing it at home by ourselves is not going to give us the good, great work.
Right.
It'll be okay, maybe, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
But listen, get as much from trusted sources.
Yes.
Right? Not from the people who don't know things, but from your trusted sources, from, get support, get feedback.
Yes. And I want to speak to that for a second, because so far Chris and I have talked about that and kind of tossed it off as though it were easy. It's not an easy conversation to have from either side. He's chuckling because there were some moments where it was a very difficult conversation to have. And I think there were a couple times where our communication styles broke down a little bit to the point of we talked and then I distinctly remember there was okay, so Chris and I met at a Dunkin' Donuts around Christmas before.
No, it was a Tim Hortons. Let's be real.
That's right. It was. Oh, because upstate New York.
Yeah.
Here we are. Yeah.
In a snowstorm.
In a snowstorm just after Christmas 2018. Oh my goodness. And we sat down for the first time in person to talk through the script. And it was a good conversation, but as a writer, it is tough to hear these things. No matter how well delivered it is, to hear this isn't working is hard, especially when you've been working on something for a very long time. And come 2018, and it had been 6 years since I had started this script the first time. Obviously not this draft, but like that, it was still hard to hear. Like, oh, okay, so that's not working. But I distinctly remember, and I think I called you with like this huzzah joy in my voice because I had figured out something that you had been trying to say to me that day in Tim Hortons, and it had eluded me. I didn't know what you were saying. I didn't know what you were meaning. I didn't know where to go. And I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but I was like, that's what you meant. And you were like, yeah, didn't I say that? Like, you probably did. That's not what I heard.
Sure. That's a yes. Hearing somebody saying something and somebody hearing something different is huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And making and figuring out how to read the person that you're having this conversation with. It's a date, right? It's just knowing how to talk to somebody in general, right? And being able to have that conversation. But then trust, I think, is really big. And I was scared to have that conversation. I was scared, yeah, when we met at the TikTok diner also. And I remember that one. And I feel like I had things that I really deeply felt I needed to share that information with you. But this is your baby,
Yeah.
right? And so who am I to tell you that something's wrong? So I think learning for me, right, learning to couch it in like, here's something, take it or throw it away. This is what I'm getting. It's not personal. It can't be personal. It's only about the work.
Yeah.
And the goal is only to make it a stronger story. But no, it's not easy on either side. And sharing that and saying like, this doesn't work is hard.
It is.
And also not making sure, right, that because I didn't write the play. So my job is not to say, actually, you should do this.
Right.
Right. That's I think a bad relationship if your collaborator is telling you go do this instead. Well, no, then dear collaborator, why don't you go write that play? But to just poke holes at what's already there, or to be as objective as possible in your observation of it is the goal.
Yeah. Now, I want to say just a couple things about this that's going to lead to a question. Because first and foremost, I think it was very helpful that we had known each other as artists and that I had already worked with you in a directorial capacity. I think that was very, very useful as a foundation to have that trust established, no matter how nervous the two of us were going into these conversations, especially those in-person ones. But also, I think that being able to walk into that conversation, no matter who it's with, in a way that is open to hearing thoughts that aren't going to be things that you take in and like and enjoy, that's a practiced skill. That's a very practiced skill. And I don't think that we give that skill to people enough, because that's tough too. And also, like, sometimes there were questions you had and I provided answers that you weren't sure about. And then I watched you decide whether or not to trust my instinct on that moment or not. So it did go both ways, but I do want to be very, very clear that you always made me feel comfortable, safe, and heard. And that is the biggest gift. Would you have any advice for directors who work with writers in a way that they could help do that?
Yeah, let's go back to the circles, right? Don't be third circle. Don't be the asshole who's only there to prove something. um it's not feeling that you have all the answers and that you have to be right. Don't feel like you have to prove something. Question, and surround your. It's what I try to do, always, is just surround myself with people who have other ideas and who are smarter than me. I'm not the guru who knows everything. You might have. I have this question for you. Truly ask it as a question. Be willing to listen to the response. Have a conversation about it. But it's just, I think it's I don't know, how do we teach people to not be assholes, right?
Yeah.
But part of it too is not, probably there are many people who go into that not thinking that they are being an asshole,
Sure.
and thinking that I'm here to, well, here's the right way to do it. I know this because I truly know that this is the way to solve your problem. You are there as the collaborator to, well, so in this process, right? I think this is pre-production, right?
Yes.
I'm here to be the sounding board.
Mhm.
Then I think it's very different once we go into rehearsal.
Yes.
It's a different process. But at this point, I'm just here to throw some ideas up and be the other brain that's kicking around images in my head of how I think it's going to look on stage, and how we're going to stage it, and what's the light going to do, and how fast is the revolve going to move at this point, and where's the band going to go. And so that's where my mind is going, right? And maybe your mind isn't going there, so then that's where we can start collaborating before we get to rehearsal. To try to solve some of those problems in advance. But no, it's listening. You have to listen, and second circle, be vulnerable, be open to conversation.
Yeah, that's great advice. Absolutely. And I want to move into the rehearsal conversation in 1 second. Two other things I want to say that are about this. You clued me in. I kind of already said this about the like pulling that one audience member through the show, but it's more than that. You clued me into really taking stock of how an audience, whether that be someone reading the show or someone watching the show, was responding to any given moment in a show. So much so that I remember having a conversation with you after the world premiere where I said, these two things did not land the way they were supposed to, and I see why, and I'd like to cut and or change them. And then I got resistance from you in your immediate reaction of, oh, but the audience seemed to like those moments. I was like, yes, they did. They liked those moments for the exact wrong reasons. And I had the privilege of being able to watch that happen and to hear people's responses after the shows and things and be like, oh, great. Now I know what to do. So thank you for that gift.
Well, isn't that like that's the importance of previews?
Yes.
Because, and this is something that I'm really interested in right now, right? And have been talking, and we're putting it in all of our marketing this season because it's huge on my mind that the audience is the final collaborator. The audience is the important ingredient, and that we often forget about, or that they don't realize that they are. So having that opportunity to have your work through the rehearsal process and then get it in front of somebody and see where they fall asleep, see where they start fidgeting, see where they get excited, see where they stand up, that's the reason to sit in the back and don't watch the play during previews, watch the audience. You have to see what their reactions are.
Yeah. As a writer, I learned so much about my work having an audience there. Not only those couple of spots, like for instance, any of you who saw King's Legacy, the video or in person, there used to be a number in which two people, in this production, myself and our good friend Mark Poppleton, shout out Mark Poppleton, we're each playing two characters, having a conversation with Henry and doing this like swapping of clothing, and it became a whole stage business thing. And the audience was delighted because of Chris's beautiful stage work, Like what he gave us, what the costumer gave us, it was great. And the audience had so much fun, but it was wrong. It was the wrong moment. It's not what we needed. We needed more about the romantic storyline at that moment, not silliness, because we had more silliness about to happen. It's like, I learned a lot there, but also the song A Queen of England, which I've been using for years as like one of those standard bops that people really like to listen to and enjoy. It's a strong female quartet of these queens, and always gathers a lot of big applause whenever it's played live, blah, 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 blah. Having this in context, finally, and having that moment come about and the song end to stillness and silence told me so much about how effective the work leading up to and through that song actually was. It was when I first really realized that leading up to Anne's death worked in the show. But I wouldn't have known that without an actual audience to see the thing. Like, that was a profound lesson for me as a writer.
And what I take from what you just said, what clicked for me is the dominoes, right, that go backwards. So as you look at that moment, if there's a great book called Backwards and Forwards, I forget I don't remember who wrote it, but it's a great book about play analysis. But it's just talking about how every single thing comes from the end, right? And you can't have that last moment until you have the moment before, until you have the moment before, until you have the moment before. And if we get stuck in assuming too much information, right? That we think we think the audience is with us. We think we've given them that information. We think something is clear, but really, what you're talking about is seeing all of those dominoes did line up, and made sense to make that last one fall. And if that last one doesn't fall, well, it means that something before it isn't there.
Yeah. And you could feel that in the world premiere, even you could feel the sections of the show. I was like, oh, we shouldn't touch that, because this as a cohesive amount of, there's like the last 20 minutes of Act 1. I was like, oh my God, it works, and it works really well. It's like, that was a surprise to me, and lovely to find out. But you can feel from the audience's energy where it works. And then also like, we're done. Like, okay, so this needs some zhuzhing.
Yeah. That's what's so exciting. That's what I love about it. Yeah.
All right, we have to dive into the rehearsal room. Okay, so directing a musicale in its world premiere, especially something that is as large as this one, and let's be real, you put together a phenomenal team. Like, the team was so good. Between having the writer in the room, an actual dramaturg in the room, and then our costume designer who also serves as a dramaturg in the room, like, just having that there was such a phenomenal foundation. But then all of our designers were just, oh my God, like the best of the best. And I love that you, as soon as they were there, you wanted to bring them into the rehearsal room too. The atmosphere. Oh, talk to me about this process.
I just love smart people. This is what I've said it a couple of times, and I think it's so valuable. I don't have all the answers, and other people do. And my job as the director is to listen and then decide where we're going to go with it, right? But the team is incredible, and to always have a team like that would be a dream, right? To have designers who are at the top of their game, truly at the top of their game, who care about story, who ask questions, who don't just, and it's Mary Ellen Stebbins is a genius, and
lighting
designer, and does not just light a show, right? the story that she tells is so intertwined with the story that of the play and the story that we are all telling. And so many moments, I think, became crystallized or clearer because of questions that she asked. And so I working with designers, and again, it's about having a relationship, I think, or having a trust that you can share, that you can have that conversation. And so I always want to work with people in the room who are willing to ask those questions, even though I'm okay, my name is the director, but I'm just the person who's like filtering the information. I truly believe that. Um or like I teach a directing class, and so I talk about this, right? That the I think we have to be prepared with, I don't think we have to be prepared. You have to be prepared with tons of information, right? And then be willing to throw it all away when somebody comes in and does something else that says, oh, actually, nope, that's the way that should happen. Um, so the work of preparing is excellent. And then to have people come in and question and say, is that really, what do you mean here? Is that really the point of the story? Is this the focus? Do we want to see this moment happening? What's going on upstage? Why is the scene so far upstage?
Do you have any specific examples?
Um,
It's okay if you don't. I'm just very curious.
I think it was something, I'm trying to think, there was something that Mary Ellen, we were talking about was it the King's Legacy song? Um, it was about the lanterns that were like flickering simultaneously with
yep.
the choreography. And it was just something, I mean, this was a silly moment, right? This wasn't about specific deep storytelling. It was just, how do we, I think I wanted, I always want more is more. And like our friend Tim McMath says, more is more. But I think I wanted more flickering or something. And she was like, Chris, you have to just, we can't, what story are we telling here? Are we telling a story about these flickering lights, or, are we distracting? Yeah. I mean, something like that is one of them.
But it's a good question to ask. Like, what is the point? What is the story we're telling? Because even as writers, we have to sometimes have someone ask us that question about a moment or a scene. Like, you may love a moment, you may adore a moment you've written, and this goes to that idea of killing your darlings, right? But when the director asks you, but is that the story we're telling? And you know in your heart that the answer is no, that tells you something about what should happen with that moment, how it might need to be cut or changed, no matter how much you love it.
What's that line of dialogue that Anne and Henry have at the top of they were at the top of the bridge, and I wanted you to cut it, and you did finally agree to cut it, but we fought about it. It was I felt like we were overtelling the story with her line, and that it could be told with just her facial expression. It was about the archery or something.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember what the line was, but I will tell you, audience, Chris was right, to the point that I wrote it into the script afterwards directly, that it was just a change of facial expression.
Yeah, and so much, right? Where's the white space? So much of writing, I don't know, I'm not a writer, but I believe in so much of storytelling is about the silences. I love a silence. I love it. I want them to go on forever. Take the moment. And we can do so much without saying it. And then it becomes more exciting, I think, or it can become more real, right? That yeah, instead of overwriting.
Yeah. And that conversation that we had where you did so lovingly remind me of what can be accomplished without saying anything, prompted me to write a silent sequence that was just underscored with music. It's right after the song Patience, after the big blow up. when and in stage movement only has to make a decision of how she's going to handle Henry in this moment where he is just thrown out two people, including his wife, something that is just like not done at all, right? The breaking point moment, how she's going to handle him is going to change everything moving forward, right? And so there's no dialogue. It is completely movement with some music underneath.
Mhm.
But I don't think I would have written that, which and it works beautifully in that sequence. I wouldn't have written that had we not had that conversation.
Mhm. And this is the other part of the audience, right? We want to carry them along,
Yeah.
but we also have to trust that they're very smart and that they will get it, and that you don't have to, you have to support them, but you don't have to hold their hand, right? Don't carry them on a, don't walk them along with a leash, right? Trust that they are smart, that they will get it, and that they probably will be way ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
I won't. I never know who does it. I never know who the murderer is in any story that I'm watching. I'm always shocked. But most people think are able to guess what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you know
Okay.
that, don't leave them waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if there's a moment where you see the audience is like, oh yeah, we know what's going to happen. Well, then let's move it along because
Right.
they're already there. So you
Right.
don't need to have that 4-page scene. It can be four lines.
Right. Absolutely. And also, by the way, y'all, I hope you're taking notes because the amount of gold that's coming out of Chris Handley's mouth today is sizable. But also, like, that was something we talked about too, was because there were things that you were like, this could be tightened, this could be tightened, this could be tightened. I was like, yeah, could be. I mean, I don't know that's necessary. And then you reminded me that we say up front in the show, in case people don't know the history, we say up front, this show is about Anne dies. So that's not a mystery anymore, right? So then how does that change the pacing of the show? Because the audience already knows this going in.
Mm-hmm.
And that was big for my rewrites in Act 2. I cut a crap ton out of Act 2. Act 2 is short.
Mm-hmm.
It's like what? It ran, I think, 40 minutes and we took our time.
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah.
yeah, that's a beautiful thing to bear in mind as a writer. Yeah, seriously, the nuggets out of your mouth. How do you deal, or how did you deal, or how would you deal? I don't know. As a director in the room, in the rehearsal room, with performers on a brand new piece, especially because like we did this in a summer stock setting, so that was short.
I mean, I don't think it's any different than working on any other piece. There's no difference, except yeah, there's not no, there's no difference. You
I love
investigate
that.
the work, you do the play, you talk about the play in with what's there on the page. If there are questions, we investigate it based on the page, and then sure, maybe I go to you and say, hey, this is a weird thing that we're having some questions about, but don't let don't let questions that you have um, don't let regular rehearsal room questions influence me to go then to the writer and say, you need to change something.
Mm-hmm.
Those are regular questions that we have in every play. And again, it's about overwriting. What am I trying to say? There will be questions. There will be things that the actors don't know.
Yeah.
And that we have a conversation about, like we will with any play. Don't be so influenced that you then have to go and ask for rewrites on it.
Uh-huh.
Try to discover it yourself. So in that way, it's exactly the same as any play.
I love that.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have done all of that work in the pre-production
Right.
between you and me, right? Like we have already had those conversations. So once you're in rehearsal, especially in a 10-day, summer stock setting, right? We're not rewriting the play. We're not giving lots of new pages at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one other major question I'd like to ask today, because I think people will be interested to take this back around to art and commerce and how they work together. So we were under the constraints of a small summer stock theater in upstate New York with a budget that is only X, which means our show budget is only X. Well, X minus a bunch. And then how did that influence and interplay with how you as the director worked on the piece?
It's just the realities of the situation. I think we always have the conversation of, well, in the $1 million or in the $10 million or whatever the numbers are, production, nobody has to carry the throne, right? Nobody has to turn this bed around on stage. The actors don't have to, the stagehands don't have to, because it's going to come in on a lift, or it's going to rotate in, or it's going to fly in, or whatever, all those things. So
Of course.
that's just the challenge, I think. Knowing, I think on the new play, right, it's knowing in the back of my head, again, don't change it here, because don't change the writing of it for the smaller production. Know in the back of my head that, okay, when we do this in a major commercial production and have lots of money, this is what can happen in this moment. And then get creative, like you do always when working at a smaller company, right? How do we make that big flashy moment work without the technology, without all the automation and technology that big budgets have?
Is there a different way that you like, what's that process like for you as a director? Do you approach that in a more script forward way, or because I'm curious. I know what everything looked like in our final version. Like, y'all, I will tell you, I'm amazed at the how incredible this production looked and sounded, knowing what the budget was. Like, what was pulled off was amazing, truly amazing.
That's your design team, right? That's having great people who are creative with dollars and know and have experience in being able to work and create magic on a small budget, on a couple of $1,000s. I don't know that it changes based on that it's more about the script or not. I would hope that it's always about the script and that it's always about the story, and that I still think, like in the big budget production, I still think that it's a courtyard, right? With this second level balcony thing. Maybe it's bigger, maybe it's more and there's more spaces, but I still think that's the place where this play happens, at least for me. So no, I don't think it changes.
I was very curious what your thoughts on that were, and I'm sure other people would be too. I'm sure between the two of us, we've seen a lot of new work, and sometimes you can tell when budget was the main thought, and other times when the storytelling was pushed to the side. Or
Well, I mean, in terms of that, I guess my focus as a producer of new work is that my job is to give the playwright the production that they see in their head, and that I'm able to fund it in a way that we're not cutting corners, that we're not that we are fully realizing the picture as best as possible on the budget we have. But I don't want to produce a new play that like a living room drama, right, that has a kitchen and a living room. On stage, I don't want to do that play without a kitchen and without a refrigerator on stage.
right, yeah,
we have to put the refrigerator on stage. It can't just be an acting cube.
right.
Because then for that first production, it's so important that you see it as developed as possible, as realized as possible, because otherwise you're still not, you still have tons of questions. You know, like the design of it is part of that first production. It has to be. Doing it in a room with just black curtains, I think, is a reading.
Yeah.
Or it's a workshop. You know, it's not, that's not a, I think it's not a production in that way.
I would agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such smart answers, Chris.
It's just the things rattling in my head.
Well, they're good things. I can tell you from experience. They're good things. All right.
What I'm here for.
Some finisher questions to bring us out for today.
Okay,
Ready?
good.
All right. So, what's your favorite thing to do that has nothing to do with theater whatsoever? Like a hobby or something. I don't know.
Like a hobby?
It doesn't have to be a hobby. Just
Does
anything.
anybody have hobbies? Do people in the theater have hobbies?
Yeah, it's
I
theater.
really love to I love to rewatch The West Wing. And I'm finishing my fourth go at that. And I like to swim.
You like to swim? I didn't know that.
Yep.
No way.
Yep.
I love that. Great. Yeah, see, those are not theater.
Yeah.
Well, The West Wing is a little bit theater, but that's for another day.
Oh yeah, that's a good topic. Absolutely.
We'll have to have you back. Is there and I'm sure the answer is yes, but is there a story somewhere in you or in your sphere or that you've encountered that you haven't been able to tell yet that you would really like to on the stage? Whether that be as a producer, an actor, a director.
You mean something? Sure. Yeah, I have this crazy project that's rattling around that came about through the pandemic, and I desperately want to do it. I think it's a I think I it's about it's a new way of producing new work, right? And so it's how do we take this play that is not written, it's a nugget of an idea, but it's not necessarily a play on the stage. And there's a way of how do we tell this story in a sort of other way. I can't talk about it because I can't give it away. But yes, there's something that I really, God, I just hope that we can do. But it does require funding because it won't be realized unless we have the dollars behind it. And I'm not going to do it without it. So it's going to sit on that burner for a while until we can find the right people who will support it.
Oof. You know, your excitement alone was worth that question. Even though that's such a tease that I can't wait to eventually have a drink with you and have you tell me about this when you have more of a thing to latch on to speak about it. But
yeah. It's going to be cool. It's going to change the shape of the American theater.
Hey, I love it. That's great. Let's do it. Let's change the shape.
Great.
Wonderful. And you know, speaking of creating more development opportunities, hopefully we'll see your face around the collective at some point in life to pop in and listen to something or give some feedback or just like say hi.
Yes.
But one more question. And that is there something that you love or are proud of that you don't get to talk about often?
These are the questions that are so challenging for me because I find that second circle on stage. I find that vulnerability on stage, and then in life, no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you about me. I'll talk about the work all day.
A perfect answer.
Yeah.
Chris Handley, you are an absolute delight and a wonder. I will say there is something that I said you should mention at some point today that you have not yet mentioned.
Uh, you mean the little thing called National Public Radio?
That there is a little thing called the NPR. I've heard of it before.
So we did, so at the Alleyway, our first production this season is the National New Play Network rolling world premiere of the Magnolia Ballet by Terry Guest. And Terry received the David Goldman Fund for New American Plays Award this week, which David Goldman is the founder of NNPN and selects one rolling world premiere each season to present this award. So Terry won the award and was in town to accept it. And NPR right now is doing a series, a 6-part series called The Next Stage. And 10 years ago, they did this, and they did a series about American regional theater. And they're doing the series now about where are we today. And they've chosen a couple of 6 different places to head, and one of them was Buffalo and the Alleyway Theater. And it'll be on October 12th on Morning Edition.
Ooh, okay.
And we're just talking about the state of new plays in the American regional theater right now, and what that means, and the joys and the challenges.
That's amazing and wonderful. I mean, that's phenomenal, truly phenomenal. So congratulations.
Yeah, I'm super excited, and I just, we're doing good work at the Alleyway, and this is exciting that people are seeing it, right? That as a very small, relatively company, we're doing great work. So send me your things.
Please do. And where can they find you? Where can they learn more about you or the Alleyway?
Alleyway.com.
Okay. Any
emails on there, I think. I don't know. If not, ask Michael.
Fair enough. Excellent. Great. Chris, thank you so much for being here for this today.
Michael Ratty, I am so happy to see you. So happy to be here. What a delight, as always.
Just wonderful. And thank you again for dropping all that wisdom, of which there was a lot.
Sure, I hope so. I mean, who knows? I'm just one person, so take it or leave it, right? Like I said, I don't have all the answers. Maybe it's not right. Maybe everything I said is wrong.
As we like to say in the collective, take it, leave it, throw it out the window.
I love it.
So thank all of you for being here with us today. I hope you got something wonderful and useful out of today. And if not, well, maybe next time. But you know what to do. Like, subscribe, all the things. Come join us in the Musical Theater Writing Collective. All the links are down below. You know what all the deal is at this point. And until next time, friends, thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here with me today, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers!